Today on Bridges, Lulu Roman from Hee Haw is here, and she is here to share her story. I'm Monica Schmelter, and I'm so glad that you could join us for Bridges today. I am especially excited that my guest today is Lulu Roman. So excited for you all to be able to catch up with her and hear her life story. Lulu, it's good to have you on Bridges today.
Thank you, Monica. Good to be here.
When I think about you and your days, on Hee Haw, it's hard to believe it's the 50-year anniversary.
50 years.
Does that seem possible to you?
It's yes and no, both,
Yep.
Yes, because I did it. No, because time has flown.
Yeah.
And it just doesn't seem like, the depth of everything that went into that, okay?
Yeah.
Just feels like a heartbeat.
Yeah. And a lot of people would wonder if they don't know the backstory. How did you end up as a character on Hee Haw? How did that happen?
I was working in the nightclubs in the Dallas area years ago, 50 years ago. And I had opportunity to meet a lot of celebrities. And so I met a cowboy named Buck, Buck Owens, okay? And the funny thing about that was, at that point in my life, I was not into country music. I was a hippie kid. I ate LSD and I ran around in water fountains. And so meeting Buck was a real trip because I was like, ugh, a real cowboy, and for some reason, of course, I know God has got His plan. Buck and I just hit it off.
Wow.
We did. And nothing more than just a wonderful, wonderful friendship. And we became very, very good friends. And we're friends even a couple of years before Hee Haw ever started.
Wow.
And when they decided, the story that I got was they made a list of characters of all these people they wanted to be on this new type country television show they were going to do that was somewhat patterned after Laugh-In. You didn't speak of that. And it had something like one gorgeous blonde, one gorgeous brunette, one fat dumb man, one fat dumb woman. Buck said, "I got your girl, she's in Dallas." And they just took his word at it. They did.
They took his word at it?
They took his word. The next time that I saw him, I was on a plane going to California to stand in front of a camera for all the producers and directors of Hee Haw.
Wow.
And they just stood me up and held up a cue card and said, "Read this." And I read it, and one of them said, "Wow, she's incredible." And I said, "Wow, give me your money and watch me get better, okay?"
Give me your money and watch me get better. So I have to ask you this, Lulu. So he just recommends you. Buck Owens says, she's
Yep.
your girl, and you go there, but you really weren't into country music and that sort of thing.
No, I was not.
So you hadn't probably imagined that this would come your way. Were you nervous standing there to read a cue card?
Not really. Not really. I've always been, I guess, the out front, silly girl. I grew up in an orphan's home, and humor was my front.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's kind of how you
was my
coped.
protection. It
Yeah.
was. And I found out very early that I could make people laugh with me as opposed to laughing at me, because when they laughed at me, that made me mad.
Yeah.
It did. Being a little fat girl, that wasn't fun. So God kind of knew what he was doing.
Right.
You know?
And you figured out a way to just cope with all of that. And
I could just make, I could do something with my eyes, and people would just fall down, And
Because
I
it's
thought,
funny.
okay, this will work.
yeah. And you stuck with it.
Did.
Now, you mentioned that you grew up in an orphan's home, and you've got that in your book.
I do.
It's an autobiography. It tells your story. So the name of the book is "This Is My Story. This Is My Song." It's written by Lulu Roman, and a lot of people, Lulu, if they know you from Hee Haw or any of your life, might not really imagine that it started out in an orphan's home. Really wasn't. If we had to imagine our best start in life, that probably.
Oh, honey, I
wouldn't
was
be it.
born in a home for unwed mothers. And just kind of dropped off in the orphan's home. I've often said, when I see you, Lord, we're going to sit down. I do, after all these years and all this time, I do get it. I do. I know that everything that I've been through is for a reason, because I'm one of those people that has a loud mouth, and a definite belief in truth works, that will stand up and be bold enough to tell people, what I've been through and what I believe to be the truth. And God's been really great to me.
He has, and he's seen you through all of these years. And I think sometimes, though, Lulu, when we're in the middle of some of the things that you talk about in the book, some of the things that you had to go through, when we're in the middle of that, it's not always easy to see the goodness or the greatness of God, or to know that there is this master plan behind all of that pain. So what would you say to someone today who's just kind of really in the middle of a lot of mess and a lot of pain, and they're just not seeing the goodness of God right this moment?
My experience is that joy comes from a lot of broken places. And I guess I want to say peace that passes human understanding, okay? That comes from a mountain of tears.
Yeah.
It does.
Yeah.
That waters that place in your life or in your heart, that will bring forth some sort of life that you can speak out and affect somebody else's life with.
Yeah.
Or you can show them with your actions, or, with a smile, sometimes just a smile.
Yeah. And that's enough when we're trusting God. It really has to be. The book, again, is This Is My Story, This Is My Song, and it's written by Lulu Roman, and it's really an autobiography of her life, of her faith, of the things that she's gone through and how God has faithfully led her through. And you talk about joy and sometimes coming from broken places. And oddly enough, Lulu, sometimes we learn about the goodness of God in the middle of some really painful and hard circumstances. And, you've shared, and you share in the book, about the loss of your son.
Yep. That's the hardest thing I've had to go through. And I just went through another one yesterday, so I'm going to try not to be weepy here.
Yeah.
My oldest boy just moved back to Bellingham, Washington. And I have a problem with people leaving me. So it's been
It's
a tough
hard.
day. It
Yeah.
has.
I'm sorry.
But you learn, oh my, do you learn through loss? You do. You learn strength. You learn tenacity. you learn I'm trying to think of the right word. It's not coming to me. But you learn more than anything that if you don't have something to believe in.
That's right.
Okay. I believe you will die. I do.
Yeah, because it's too much. If there's not something that
If
we
I hadn't
believe
had,
in.
yeah, the Lord when my baby died, and if I did not know in the depths of my heart that I will see that child again, I would not have made it.
Yeah.
Wouldn't have.
Yeah. Because it's the worst loss that a
It
parent
is.
could know. It's what
It
we,
is, and he was such a joy.
Yeah.
He was so precious. He was more like me than my oldest boy. My oldest boy is very serious.
So a comedian has a serious son.
I think they always do, yeah. But my Justin was so much like me.
Wow.
He was, yeah. He was.
Must have been a lot of laughs with you guys.
We were loose cannons. Yeah.
I can see that.
Yeah.
I can see that. So you probably had so much fun and so much joy.
Yeah, we did. And I know, I really believe with my whole heart that I will see him again.
And you will. You will.
Yeah.
We've got to take a break. We want you to
Yeah.
stay with us. When we come back today on Bridges, we're going to continue to take a look into this book. This is my story. This is my song. It is an autobiography of my guest, Lulu Roman. So if you will stay with us, in just a moment, we will be right back on Bridges.
Don't miss another episode of Bridges. Subscribe to our YouTube channel today, where you can find all of Monica's latest teachings and interviews. It's easy to do. Just visit youtube.com, search Monica Schmelter, and click subscribe. Once you are subscribed, click the bell icon to get notified when a new episode is available to view. Thanks for watching Bridges.
Log on to www.ctntv.org, where you can make a prayer request, view our program guide, see who's on Bridges, or even watch one of Monica's latest teachings. Log on to www.ctntv.org.
If you're just joining us on Bridges today, my guest is Lulu Roman, and we are taking a look at her life and her story. She's written a book called This Is My Story, This Is My Song, and it is an autobiography, and it is a very unique work and story of how God has worked in and through Lulu's life all of these years. And Lulu, I think the first thing that I think, you know, whenever I hear your name, it just makes me smile when I look back to all those episodes on Hee Haw and the fun and the jokes. Are you able to share any behind the scenes stuff with us?
It depends on whether it comes to this mind or not, you know. I'm in a place now where, you know, you forget stuff. That's not fun.
No.
Yeah, I still remember some of it, but what I wanted to say is also, too, I had help with this. A young man named Scott England is just sharp and picked up on me and picked up on my spirit, and couldn't have done it without him.
Yeah.
Couldn't have.
Yeah. So he kind of took your life's experiences,
did.
the things that you've been through, and Scott penned it all together.
And he used my words to do it. He's that good.
Yeah.
I haven't seen anybody that could do that, you know, as well as Scott does. I don't think he's the person I really run into that really did it with me. Just, you know, able to use my words and, you know. But that book would not have been possible without him.
That's amazing, and I'm so glad that he was able to do that so that people and so that I could hear your life stories and hear about the lessons and the experiences that you've had, because there's so much that we can learn from one another as believers through the joys and the pains and the trials. What made you decide to even have that put in a book? Why the book?
Had so many people I ask, you know. A lot of people I ask about it. So I said, okay. Whoa, okay.
Yeah. So people want to know the stories and what you've learned.
They do.
Tell me about the title, This Is My Story, This Is My Song.
I was sitting around one day trying to figure out what we were going to call this book. And I thought Lulu Roman just, that people have heard that a long time, that name, you know. And I mean, I really believe the Lord just dropped it on me. I was trying to figure out, you know, what I could call it. And the Lord just put it into my mind, and I kind of started to sing to myself, this is my story. And I went, wait a minute, that's good.
That's it.
This is my story, this is my song. Yeah, that'll work.
Yeah.
And I believe the Lord actually just dropped that one on me.
Well, it's good when he helps us out. We don't have to.
Yes, it is.
So I would love to hear more about your days at Hee Haw, and would you have ever imagined, like, if you can even think back to when you're in the orphan's home and the experiences, would you have ever imagined, if you could have looked into the future, that this would have been your life?
Oh my goodness, no. Because in the orphan's home, what I got was fatty, 2x4, can't get through the kitchen door. To which I always wanted to say to them, you know, when I had a cookie in my hand, obviously I did. You know?
Yeah, so they weren't too smart, were they?
No.
I think it's so hard. You know, our childhood years are our formative years. And it sounds like in those years, you really experienced a lot of pain.
I did. I can, that's a good thing, I'm thinking. It's one thing I didn't forget. I remember the day that I was dropped off in the orphan's home. I remember what date it was. It was September the 10th, 1950. It was very cold in September then. And I had on a corduroy teal jumpsuit, you know, with the little straps that button
Yeah.
and a little white shirt. And I had, my grandmother had gotten me one of those little fur-looking things that you'd buy for your kids, a little fur jacket with the
Yeah.
little hat that had the little string with the little balls
Yes.
on it. Yeah.
Yes.
I remember that. It was white. I remember I had that on. And I remember being taken to a great, huge building. It looked very large to me. And walked in hanging on to my grandmother's hands. Went through big white doors. And I was startled because everything was white. The floors were white. The walls were white. The fixtures were white. The women and the clothes were white. Everything was white. And they took me and set me on a white bench in front of a window where there's some children out there playing. And I must have sat there for hours and hours.
Oh.
I just sat and waited and waited and waited, you know. And it started to get a little towards dusk, and this lady came and said, Louise, come with me. And I said, but I'm going home with my granny, you know.
Oh.
And she said, sweetheart, your grandmother is gone. Very firm. And she said, "You'll be here with us." Well, the first thing I did was fall to pieces and cry. I remember that. And I got my first spanking for crying. I did, I remember. And they put me in one of those beds that was up off the ground, and it had the slats, you know, that would come down.
Yeah.
And then they'd hook it back in. It was a high top thing. They put me in one of those and slammed the thing shut. There was a room full of kids that were, and then turned out the light, off they went. First day in the orphan's home.
Oh.
I remember it very well.
So you didn't know when you got dropped off that you were getting dropped off?
Oh, I had no idea.
You just got dropped off, no explanation.
Nobody said anything to me about, you know, of course I was 2 years old, you know.
Yeah.
And
those are some vivid memories for a 2-year-old.
yeah,
that
they
had
were.
to just
they
be
were.
such a,
That's you know, it's something I've never forgotten. I mean, you know, you get to an age, you know, past 70 or so, and you kind of start to forget things, you know. But boy, you won't forget that.
No.
I didn't.
no. And it sounds like you didn't forget some of your days there and the teasing and the things that were said to you. Now, you've been, over the years, you've been real open about the weight loss surgery that you
Yep.
had, and you look wonderful. You look wonderful. Tell us about that journey.
Oh, my. I've done just about everything there is to try to lose weight.
And a lot of people have. It's not an easy
yeah.
struggle for sure.
Yeah, and I'm sure that there is a part of my makeup, generically, or whatever, you know, that all of the women that I knew in this family that I came from were very overweight, all of them. So I don't know that you would say that was hereditary. I don't know what it is. But I do remember that as a very young child, my grandmother fed me sugar when she wanted me to be okay. I remember that. Cookies and stuff, you know. So I found out real early that sugar was my best friend.
Well,
so
it
much
does
so
taste
that I
real
wanted
good.
to wear it.
And it does taste really good. Yeah, sugar. Cookies, right? Cakes.
Candies, oh yeah.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. I always think it's cute when people say, well, you know, I just want to eat healthy. And I think, well, that's really good. I do too.
No, I didn't want to eat healthy. I wanted sugar. Sugar made me happy.
Well, even sometimes with those same healthy people, you put a bowl of apples next to, you know, a plate of brownies, and the brownies go first, don't they? So I think most people know that, you know, sugar.
And the funny thing is, I've always told people my name for myself is Fruit Hog, okay? I am a fruit hog. I love fruit. I do. Those around me can tell you that. I'll eat fruit before I'll eat candy. I will.
Oh, that's awesome.
And that's pretty good.
Yeah.
My deal is I never was a chocolate person
Really?
until I found dark chocolate.
Oh.
I could dip my hands in it and just sit around and
So dark chocolate
it's the
is
dark
your chocolate of,
yes.
of
I don't care a
choice.
thing about milk chocolate. Never have. Never have. But when I found dark chocolate,
It all came together
It
for
did.
you. Well, the book again is called This Is My Story, This Is My Song, and it is an autobiography that tells the story of Lulu Roman from the day that she was dropped off at the orphanage through her Hee Haw days and just through her life. And Lulu, we've got just a moment left here. Is there any one last thing that you'd like to share with us today on Bridges?
oh me. Nothing will sustain you. Nothing will heal you. Nothing will completely fill your life like Jesus will.
Yeah, and that's it. That's it.
And I'm very vocal when I stand up and talk about Jesus. In my personal life, it's very private and very precious to me. It is. I spend time in the mornings and in the evenings with the Lord every day. I do.
That's wonderful.
But,
I want to thank you so much for coming today and for sharing. It's been wonderful
you
to
for
have you.
having me.
Absolutely.
Stay tuned. Monica will be right back with closing comments.
Welcome to Bridges. I'm Monica Schmelter. I'm glad that you could join us today.
All of these different people united on the same team, praying for each other, blessing each other.
And it was that hope and that faith is why I survived.
When my dad was preaching for a youth revival, and I don't know what happened, still I can't believe it. I was the first person who stood up and walked down the aisle.
He gave me my first Bible, and he opened a window in my life to Christian faith through Jesus Christ.
When you want the Lord to speak to you, it's like you don't know what he's going to tell you.
If we'll be just that one that could step up in faith to say, God, I just trust that you have better than this.
No one else can tell you what you need except God, because he loves us. We're his children.
Do you have a ministry or business? You can contact Nashville's WHTN for studio and programming rates. Visit ctntv.org/studio or call 615-754-0039 for more details.
As I think about today's program with Lulu Roman, the one central message, the one word that I really think about is the word faithfulness. I think about the faithfulness of God to Lulu over the years of her life and the various circumstances, the trials, the victories, and also the great losses, and how God has been her constant. And the one thing that you and that I can take away from that is that since God is no respecter of persons, he is the same faithful God to each one of us. Not every day in a believer's life feels victorious or even pleasant. We go through hard things, we go through heartbreak, but in the middle of those hard things, in the middle of our own personal heartbreak, God is still good and God is faithful. When we trust him, when we obey his word, when we dare to believe that beyond what we see and what we think we see, we dare to believe God's word, we will experience his goodness and be able to grow closer to him. The trials of this life won't last forever, but we will always have Jesus Christ with us. We're out of time, but we've got to go, and we say goodbye, and God bless you.